Hey y'all, my name is Taylor. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So today I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of 2023. And I'm a little surprised about how many 4.5 or higher books that I rated last year. There were 17 of them, and it made this list a little bit difficult to compile and order them by how much I love them. So that was a little hard, but I did narrow it down to 10, and I have some honorable mentions. So I picked a couple that I physically own just to talk about them and share them. And yeah, so we'll start with those. So first up is Last Light by Terry Blackstock, and this was actually a subscriber gift from Kathy, and she pointed me in the direction of this series by gifting this to me. It wasn't on my radar, so I really appreciate her doing that. But I really loved this whole series, the first one in particular. And this is a Christian, almost apocalyptic type novel. It is about the world, the modern day world, and everything electronic or generator operated stops working. So electricity, obviously, cars, planes, phones, TV, everything that has an electric current, I guess, stops working. And yeah, it is, the world is plunged into chaos, and it's one particular family's story as a Christian family, how to navigate all this and survive and protect their family. And just checking on my daughter to make sure she's still sleeping in her crib. On the monitor. So anyways, yeah, so I really loved this series. It's almost like, what if is going to happen? What are the what ifs? What would I need to do to prepare, or how would I respond to this? How would I need to protect my family? What do I need to get? What steps do I need to do? It was really interesting, kind of that aspect of it too, and almost like a how to survive handbook. So I was taking mental notes along the way too, just in case, you never know. But yeah, so this one was really fun. Highly recommend that whole series. I think there's 5 books in it, if I remember correctly. The Restoration series. Next up, we have The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. So I started my journey through the Chronicles of Narnia last year, and this is the first book. I chose to read them chronologically instead of in publication order. And I know there's some controversy around that, but my brain, the way it works, I figured I'd do chronological. So I didn't really know anything about this one other than I think I suspected it was Narnia's origin story, but I was really pleasantly surprised. And this particular copy has little illustrations in it, so I love that. It is the full color collector's edition, and I would love to own the rest of the series in that, because I think the illustrations just kind of make it even better. But yeah, this was a really fun time. I love Narnia. It's like coming home. It's just really comforting and cozy, and Aslan is just the best. And yeah, I really, really love that one. If I Run by Terry Blackstock. This is everywhere, and I finally got to it, and it is a romantic suspense, in case you don't know. But it's about Casey. She is on the run because she thinks that the police are corrupt, and she will get blamed for her friend's murder. And so she's trying to clear her name, and she's taking on these other identities, and there's a romance along the way, and it's just a really fun time. I binged the whole series last year, so I highly recommend, if you get to this, have all of the books on hand so you can just go right on through, because you will. These read really fast, and they are really, really good. So that was that one. At number 10, I have To Break a Silence by Lydia May, and this is a part of the Shattered Tales series that I have talked about a bunch on my channel, but it is an aspect of an original fairy tale is twisted or shattered, and it creates a brand new story. And this one is a Little Mermaid retelling, and what is different about this one is, what if the prince wakes up to another woman on the beach and falls in love with her? And yeah, so it was really, really good. I loved it. It was super sweet. I loved Stella. This is the main character. She's a really endearing character, and so is her love interest. And I don't know, it just felt really, really almost cozy too. Uh, I love fairy tales. They just feel like you're embracing your inner child, and it's just so fun. But it's interesting to see how things changed with that element of the story being changed. And all of the Shattered Tales have an element of glass in them somehow, and it was interesting to see how glass is used in each story, and this one was no difference. Number 9 is The Secrets Beneath by Kimberly Woodhouse. And I just love Kimberly Woodhouse's writing. I think she's really talented, and she writes faith phenomenally. She's one of my favorite Christian authors, Christian fiction authors. And yeah, so this one is about the Bone Wars. So paleontology, an area of history I didn't really know much about. I'd never really heard of the Bone Wars. But apparently there was kind of a race to discover dinosaur bones, and it was an area of science that women were really emerging in this time period, and so they kind of had to fight to be taken seriously and be a part of the scientific field. So it's a little bit a part of that, but mainly it is a second chance romance, and I don't normally like those, but it was still really sweet. And there was another part of the book that had some mystery, a little bit, tiny bit of suspense too. So it was a lot of stuff that I really loved rolled up into one book, and I really enjoyed it. Number 8 is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. So yeah, I really loved this one a little bit more than The Magician's Nephew, so this is why it's in my top 10. But I don't know if it's the movies that really did it for me, but I just love this story. It is, I don't know, it is magic personified in a book. But I just really love the Christian allegorical elements of it as well, and it's just really fun, and I can't wait to finish the rest of the series, hopefully this year, but I can definitely see myself rereading this several times in the coming future. Number 7 is Becoming Hook by Mary Meckham, and this one is a Peter Pan retelling. It's my favorite retelling of 2023, and Hook is the hero and Peter Pan is the villain. There's a romance between Tinkerbell and Hook, and it's just everything I wanted in a fairy tale romance. Some action, there's a little bit of almost realisticness in it, and I hesitate to say that with a fairy tale story, but I had always thought with the Disney Peter Pan, like, how does that make sense? You know, how would a group of boys function? Like, you know, if all they're doing is playing, like, what in the world? How are they okay? And this book touches on that a little bit. It's part of Peter Pan's villainy story, and it was really, really interesting. So highly recommend that one. Number 6 is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I have seen the movies several times, the whole universe movies, and I was a little intimidated because, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote back in the day, and I was a little hesitant of his writing, but I was pleasantly surprised at how easy this was to read. I did listen to the Andy Serkis audiobook, so that made it way easier and a movie-like experience, but I've been told that this is written for a younger audience versus like the Lord of the Rings trilogy is more adult, so I'm a little hesitant to read those, but this one is super fun, and it was made quite the experience, not only with the Andy Serkis audiobook, but buddy reading it for me with Chrissy, Holly, and Lindsay. It was so fun, and really this story is kind of like coming home. Like, I'd never read the story before, but it just had that nostalgic home-like feel to it, and there were some Christian allegory, like deeper meaning stuff that you can really see in the characters, particularly Bilbo. And Bilbo, just he is after my own heart. He's a homebody. He just wants to go home and eat food and read, and just, that is me. So I loved his character, and it was just interesting to see how the movies and the book kind of are different and similar. So a lot of it is similar, but there's a little bit of differences here and there. But it was super fun, and yeah, our buddy read group is going to be continuing on through the rest of the series this year. So we'll see if those make my top 10 of this year. Number 5 is Counted with the Stars by Connellan Cassette, and this is a biblical fiction story around the Exodus. So it's one girl, Kaya, I think her name is. Yeah. She is an Egyptian slave, and so she gets kind of roped into going with the Israelites out of Egypt, and so she witnesses the Red Sea. So she is coming to faith throughout the whole novel. She obviously, as an Egyptian, she worshipped the false gods, and so she's leaving everything she's ever known, questioning everything she has ever taught, and witnessing things that point her in the direction of the one true God. And it's just a beautiful salvation story, and it was so fascinating to see the events, the plagues of the Exodus, the events too, but particularly the plagues, because I think they really, I've read it in the Bible, but how they actually would have been lived and experienced, and how truly awful they were to live through. This book really helped me see that, and yeah, it's going to be one of my favorites of all time for sure. So I know there are other books in this series, so maybe I'll get to one of those one day, but yeah, this one was so good. Number 4 is Pearl in the Sand by Tessa Afshar, and this was my first Tessa Afshar book, and people had been raving about her books, and I can definitely see what they're talking about. Her writing is phenomenal as well, and she just can explain Old Testament times and like traditions, and why, the reasoning behind why the Israelites followed certain rules, like why things were the way they were. So that was really interesting, and I think she worded things really well, and it just made that time period really come to life. But anyways, it's a Rahab retelling, and it is more than just the fall of Jericho. That is the very beginning of the story, and it's really spanning her coming to live with the Israelites and marrying Salmon. And yeah, I really enjoyed it for me as a new believer, just watching her grow in her faith and really become acclimated with the Israelite people. And then also she does marry Salmon in this book, and I think like halfway through, and the other half is her dealing with her past and what it means to be a new bride and how to be a wife and all of that, and their struggles as a newlywed couple. So I could really see myself in her a little bit, as far as like struggling to be in a marriage. I've been married for a little while now, but I remember it wasn't too terribly long ago. I remember what that was like, so I enjoyed reading that, and yeah, so I really love that one and cannot wait to read more of Tessa's books this year. Now we're getting into my top 3 favorite books of the year, and these are going to be absolutely favorites of all time. And at number 3, we have The Mark of the King by Jocelyn Green. And this is Christian historical fiction. Also, Jocelyn Green writes really well too, really talented. But she took an element of history I'd never heard of, which is the forced immigration of French convicts into the New Orleans colony in order to force population growth, and one girl's journey as part of that. And it really was an emotional book. There were some things that she went through that they were really hard to read, and it just touched your heart more than usual, at least for me. So there are some trigger warnings in this one, so if you want to know what they are, just let me know, or you can read my Goodreads review. But it was hard. to read, but I think it was definitely worth it. There was, you know, there is beauty at the end of the story, is all I'll say, but highly recommend that one. Number 2 is The Lady and the Lionheart by Joanne Bischoff, and y'all, this is so good. Oh my goodness, I was blown away how good this is. I had heard about this from Bethany. I'll link her channel below. I was initially very hesitant because I do not like circus books. Yeah, it's an anti-buzzword for me. But she really recommended it and said that the faith was really great, and it is so good. It is about Ella. She is an aspiring nurse, and some finances are kind of preventing her from truly being a nurse. So she's working at this hospital as kind of like a maid, laundry person, you know, the grunt work type person. And so she witnesses this man come in, and he has a baby with him who's really sick, and this man is treated unfairly. He's prejudiced against because he's different. He's a circus person, and so she agrees to help him when the hospital turns him away because the baby's sick. Then they need help, and it is their romance, but also so much more than that. It is also Ella's salvation story as well. I love a good salvation story. Super sweet. I loved the baby's character. As a new mom, I really loved her. Her name's Holland. She was really lifelike to me, and my heart felt for her when she was sick. But yeah, and Charlie's character, the lion tamer, the guy with the baby, his name's Charlie Lionheart. His character is probably one of my favorites of all time. He really goes through it for that baby. Like, the things he does for her is so sweet and endearing, and yeah, it's so sweet, and what he goes through, I just love it. So good. There are some trigger warnings in this one too, for sexual assault, rape, but it is in the past. So anyways, please read it. And now, number 1, if y'all can't guess it, I'd be very surprised because I've talked about this before, but it is In This Moment by Gabriel Meyer, and I just love this series so much. The concept behind it is so unique. I don't think there's really anything to top it. The first one is about Libby, and she lives simultaneously in 2 different timelines, one in the 1700s, one in the 1900s. By her 21st birthday, she has to pick which timeline she lives in. It's a beautiful story, very interesting how Gabriel kind of makes that world happen, that storyline happen. Some really hard-hitting things. This is the sequel. So I reread the first one, When the Day Comes, which is behind me. But I reread that one this year in preparation for reading this one with buddy reads. So Chrissy, Lindsay, and Lauren from Cohen Cottage on Instagram. So we read this together, and that just made it even more fun. We were surprised together with things because this book is, I would say, a little bit more action-packed. Like, you want to know what's going to happen, and Gabriel takes you through it. Oh my goodness. There's so many questions that you need to have answered. Like, what is this character going to do? What in the world? How is this going to end? So yeah, I love this story. I love the series. I've said before, it is my favorite series of all time. I don't see anything taking its place. If it does, it'll have to be out of, I can't even comprehend anything taking this series place in my heart. So love that one. So that was my number 1, and so those are all of my top 10 and bonus books of 2023. Let me know, have y'all read any of those? What were your thoughts on them? Do you disagree? Let's talk about it in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, y'all.